Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Mad Realms Talking Skritt. I'm your host, Jim, and we have all of the classes right now, and a turtle, and a new guild hall, and 6 weapon sets of legendaries. But before ArenaNet kills me with late week releases of information, let me get to my co-hosts for this week. She writes for MMORPG.com and also does a whole bunch of other stuff on the internet. Say hello to Arlie.
Hello.
And guesting in from Virtually Interrupted this week, when she's not breaking, the one thing that I will always remember is the scream when you dove out of the Veil Guardians arena.
Oh no!
Yes. Oh yes.
Oh
no! Say hello, everybody, to Erilyn.
Hello.
It's something that will always stick in my head because that was.
You wanted Potamus clipped it for posterity.
Yeah, but that was a fun night. God, I want to raid again. Anyway, first things first. We're going to be talking about the reason it's episode 300 part 1 is because I have 9 elite specs to talk about changes for. So I have had to schedule out shows such that Tuesday night we are going to be doing part 2 of episode 300. Mm-hmm. And hopefully I can manage to do part 3 next Saturday, but I have to double check my schedule because I just realized that it's entirely possible that's coinciding with a Christmas grab bag with friends. So, damn it, being an adult and scheduling sucks. But we've got light armor stuff today. First and foremost, we are going to talk the Virtuoso, which Erilyn is here as our Mesmer expert this time around. So, Arrow, what do you think of the Virtuoso changes?
Love. That's just hearts all across the board. I was in love with it playing last night.
Wow. That is an awful lot. I'm trying to find the where's your Goram forum, guys? Forums, because they'll have the patch notes, and I meant to have this up before things happened. Is there anything like specific that you wanted to go over for the changes? But
well, I have a feeling a lot of them are going to change again, for good reason, because it is seriously overpowered at the moment. I was attempting to try to do a Condi build to start with, only to realize that it wasn't actually going to do any good, so I went with all power. And was still getting like 6k tick bleeds, because if you have all 5 of your blades up, you have 100% Condi duration.
Ooh.
Just flat out. No gear or anything for it, but as soon as you have all 5 of your blades, you just get a flat 100% Condi duration.
Wow.
What?
Yeah, and if you do really good, if you get your opener right, you can stack 40 bleeds instantly.
Wait, so I'm curious. Does that mean if you have gearing for it and you have 5 blades, you go over 100%, or is it capped?
Most definitely.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
because like it'll cap at 100 anyway. So, I stacked for power and got my crit chance to 99%, and you have 100% chance to inflict bleeds on crit.
Oh my god.
So I was just like, 40 bleeds? Oh, okay. Auto attacks, 21k on a golem? Cool.
Wow. Okay, here we go. Yes, updates.
It's a little bit of nonsense.
Yeah, that's a lot of bit of nonsense. That's the most nonsensical.
I had a lot of fun. I went and did a dragon stand, and I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. And my friend Potamus was like, doesn't matter, you're doing 20k, just hit him.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Why are they making it so hard for me to find the release notes for all of this? I know they released
I have them up.
Okay,
Hold on.
Please send them to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to scroll back through our chat to find them too, because I wanted to check something for Harbinger, and yeah, it was a difficult find.
Okay.
Did they change something with Virtuoso that even if you do nothing, you over time generate the blades, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. That's feedback number 1. Blades persist between combat, but it's difficult to gain them before fights. Automatically stock a blade every 10 seconds while out of combat.
Okay, it's out of combat only. That's
And
the
then
part
you
I
can
was-
use mirror images and decoy without a target to gain blades out of combat.
It's kind of nice. It makes it easier to start combat fully loaded. That's cool.
I mean, but even if you try to stock your blades after you go into combat, I was full stocked on blades after not even 3 seconds.
Okay, so it's just very quick, even if you're
Very quick.
going in dry, so to speak. You know, I love how you're saying is talking about the bleed damage. When number 5 is Condi damage traits generally seem underwhelming.
Oh, no, no.
Not anymore.
No, it was pretty good.
Oh, that's ridiculous. That's crazy. So you fully think that we're gonna see nerfs to this?
100%.
Okay.
Maybe not like right at the beginning, but it is definitely going to see nerfs.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. If you can get to 100% without even here, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty bonkers. Although 100% Condi duration, that's max, right? You can only ever get plus 100. Like, part of me was about to say it's not so bad and can still be useful for power builds, but like, I can't imagine just being able to have 100% Condi duration for existing.
Well, and that's what I think the problem is like, even if you're just like, having it like that, you don't ever have to build for Condi. You can just be power build. Just...
Or you can do the weird old like vanilla gear that had power and Condi damage on it, and then one random other stat.
Oh yeah.
What was that? Sinister? Condi damage, power, and precision, I think, is Sinister.
Yes.
That came with Heart of Thorns. That was...
I can log in and
wait,
make use
or
of...
is it Viper? I'm thinking.
Viper is the one that was introduced with Heart of Thorns that has duration on it.
Okay.
With the 2 high tier stats. Why did I hit enter on logging in? Because I knew this was going to take forever. There we go. /wiki.
Sinister was Silver Waste. Okay.
Yeah, then that was definitely it. That's the one then. Okay. Sinister is Condi damage, power, precision with majority Condi damage.
Yep.
So I guess it would be a Condi Virtuoso, but you'd still, you know,
a lot of power.
You wouldn't have to deal with stocking up on any Condi duration. You would just have it.
I unfortunately do not have legendary runes and sigils and stuff, so I couldn't try to optimize the build 100%. But it was so stupid. It was great. I had so much fun.
Okay. Well, that's good. Like, if it's just the numbers that need tuned, but playing it felt fun. Like,
yeah, you don't lose your blades like if you mount up. And Ponimus said that it seemed like they used the same kind of coding they did for Necro Minions. Now that they persist, because it is pretty cool to like, fly around on my sky scale and have the 5 blades follow you around. It looks really cool.
Oh, they don't disappear when you're mounted. Okay.
Nope.
Oh yeah, I noticed that when we were running around and Hat was riding on my turtle, I could see his blades all around him the whole time.
That would be that's really good for like, because I could see if you were mounted and your blades were hidden, that would be a problem for like WW, I would think. Because you see a group of people coming in, you don't see that it's, I don't know, however many virtuosos that are just going to dismount, point at you, and press F1.
I was going to say, you see a horde of virtuosos and like,
everybody pops off of their mount and it's just like, ha! And you're a pincushion.
No, you can't gain them while mounted, but if you have 5 and you mount, they stay with you. They persist.
That's still pretty in keeping with a lot of their... I mean, not necessarily with the rest of Mesmer, because your clones disappear because they need a target. But in keeping with like all of the other out-of-combat resources, is everything always builds up. So, except for virtues on a guardian, but it's not like 5 hits is really all that big a deal.
Right.
But how are you seeing this in? Is this going to be good for like? Miko didn't tell me. Like she said, you've been a Mesmer player for a while.
Oh dear, yes.
Okay. So are you seeing this used in all game modes?
I'm not certain on World v World just because I don't play that very much, and I am 100% not a PvP player.
Okay.
Um, if it keeps with the same skill set that it has, I would say that it probably does have potential in PvP because it is very bursty.
Okay.
Now, extended time, you don't have a lot of stuff that can keep you alive, but if it's revolving around bursting, which I'm pretty sure PvP is like that, I think it will do very well. Raids, on the other hand, I foresee it being a very good power option in raids.
Well, that's good.
Kind of like Dragon Hunter is. Like to this day, I still use a lot of Dragon Hunters in my raids. So I feel like it might actually be a very viable one. Um, as far as Mesmer goes, yes, I just like Miko went into Chrono Jail. I started raiding whenever shortly after raids first came out. I actually raided with Spirit and her group.
Okay.
It was Relic's first raid group, and I was an Ellie. About a year later, I decided I wanted to try to start leading my own raid group through my guild, and she just laughed. She didn't tell me why she laughed. She just laughed. Come to find out, Chronos were really hard to find. So I started playing Chrono and never quit.
Okay.
Because I couldn't find Chronos for my groups.
That's
That's
why I
funny.
ended up a tank in World of Warcraft. As we were talking about that a pre-show. Yeah, I ended up tanking because tanks are hard to find.
Yep.
And I think
It was
that's-
exceptionally hard to find. And then Miko and I ended up co-tanking and co-leading all of our groups together.
Okay.
So,
Now, this is did they keep the trait that gives you like the crazy power bonus when you're within certain range?
yes.
I'm not a huge fan of that conceptually, but I mean, okay.
Let's see if I can
we're
pull
here,
it up. There was another one.
We're here to distract 7-bit. Promise. I suppose I should just go and create a Mesmer myself real quick here.
We also used part of the build. I swapped in illusions instead of domination,
Okay.
and the top in the final line, Phantasmal Force, actually stacks with it as well.
Buh. Okay.
Yeah, 1% damage increase for stacks of might.
Whew. Oh, okay. That's. Just,
Yeah,
have
I see
to-
nerfs.
I need to get out. I've been told I need to get out of Lion's Arch immediately for this particular patch, but I don't know if I think that might have just been Tuesday. Because of course everybody logs in and goes to Lion's Arch. Okay, so H builds. You know what? I actually have a whole window set aside for this side panel. Streamlabs, what are you doing?
So, even though it's overtuned and you're having fun with it, do you think there's like any like basic just they need to make to it aside from tuning?
Not that I can tell currently. It has block potential, which I think every class needs. It plays fine. I don't really feel like it had any glitches on it per se, not that I came across anyway. It's comfortable to play, in my opinion. If you've played Mesmer or Mirage or even Chrono, it's just kind of like a combination of all of them. It feels like to me. So
Okay.
it's really fun. I don't feel that it has any drawbacks to it compared to when I was like I did try to play Catalyst a little bit and I did not enjoy it like I was hoping. I'm
Right.
sorry, Eponymous.
Yeah, I think you're in good company on this stream in that field.
Okay.
not enjoying Catalyst.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get there. I don't want to. I want to rein it in before I get to. I don't want to. I don't want to interrupt anything. But like, it's cool. Like, so one of the things that I remember feeling kind of weird that I know people kind of took issue. Oh, they didn't change the firing thing on that. 1,000 cuts, the elite. The I wish I could show it, but for some reason my stream software is not wanting to pick up Guild Wars 2,
Oh, good.
which I would have liked to be able to do. Leading into my incoming rant on Catalyst, but here we are, I guess. But 1,000 cuts, I was expecting it to like the range doesn't show. Like it says it's 1,200 range, but the firing cursor doesn't really give you that idea, which is really
Oh
weird.
no, it's really short.
It is really weird to be able to have a line projectile like that with ground targeting. Like, I just find it very odd. Oh, the projectiles carry along the ground. That's going to be very useful in PvP, actually. I am no 7-bit. I am not the #1 Catalyst fan. Hi, buddy.
A flying corgi.
Oh,
Yep.
hello.
Oh.
Hello. Okay. So, with that, do you have any further like things you want to talk about with Virtuoso other than like super happy fun times?
No, not on my end. Like I said, I think it was fantastic. I do foresee nerfs coming for it, so whatever you're playing with it currently, don't expect it to stay.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
That's fine. Like I'm not too worried about that. But Arlie, I know you probably didn't have a chance to mess with it because Turtle. And I know
Yeah.
you were just trying to get Harbinger time in just before we started the stream.
Extra Harbinger time,
Extra
but yes.
Harbinger time. Okay. Hi, buddy. I need to get back to my keyboard now.
Oh, early Harbinger talk. When it first came during the beta, when it came out, we were doing fractals with it, and Miko and I were talking about it, and one of the skills looked so pretty, and we're like, "Oh, that's such a pretty skill!" And somebody goes, "The one where people are impaled." And we were like, "Oh, wait."
Yeah, that is a pretty spell. I agree.
The color is just so pretty. We didn't even notice the 5 impaled bodies on it.
That's awesome.
Didn't even notice the bodies. Yeah, I guess. Okay, let's see if I can tell it to auto select something. But Arlie, while I spin up a test Harbinger, do you want to talk about Harbinger here?
Okay. So initially on the first beta, I really, really loved it. And I still like it, and they made some good changes, but also there's some things that feel like they don't work as well now. So one of the good things that I think they made was we talked a lot about the elixirs just seemed very pointless and weird in the way that they used them. So I think adding the blight threshold to add an extra aspect to the elixir was good.
Okay.
I think especially as I get more familiar with the elixirs and learning about what they do and what the bonuses do, there's some interesting play that can be involved there. I also really like that they made it so that they have the initial, when you use it, it puts like boons or whatever it's doing on you, and then you throw it and you get the other part of it. I think that's a good interplay too. Especially I could see like in situations where you might want the the buff on you immediately, but you might want the negative, not want the negative initially on the other person or the other group. So like you could pull it and get it on you, maybe dodge a little, and then when the enemies or players or whatever are grouped together or in an advantageous point, then you throw it on them. That could be some interesting play there. There were two things that kind of bothered me this time. When I was playing it this time, I felt like it was harder to build blight. Like in the first beta, I felt like I was getting blight from everywhere. Like I got to 20 stacks one time easily and didn't even realize it. It was like, holy shit. Because, that made me have like 1,000 health.
Right.
But like this time around, it feels much harder to generate the stacks. And the only time I really had an easy time with it was when I was in the Shroud and I didn't get it as much from the other things. So I think originally, if I'm remembering correctly, using some of the elixirs would give you light as well.
All of
There
them
was
would
some,
give you blight.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the downside because they took that away from it, the elixirs, and instead gave them the thresholds. So blight is more of a in shroud mechanic, and yeah, you keep it when you come out of shroud, but you can only really generate it when you're in shroud now. So it's a little different there.
Looks like
The
you have to target yourself in the AoE for the elixir for you to get the blight.
No, you don't get blight from it.
If you throw it on yourself, you do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. If you're doing that, then that would make sense. But I was running like pistol and not focus.
Okay.
So I'm playing more, not long range, more range. So I'll be throwing things at stuff more. So I wasn't in the elixirs that often when I was throwing.
Right.
So I guess if you're playing more melee, then that would work out, and it makes it more of a all-inclusive thing, and that might be the optimal way to go with it. I haven't really like focused in on figuring that out, but I was a little disappointed that it was harder for me to get blight outside of Shroud. The Shroud skills still feel really good. I love using them. They're great. Especially that makes everything float.
Because we all float.
Yes. I just making everything float up is just hilarious. And I still think my favorite combination is making everything float up and then having a Virtuoso rain down the daggers on top of them. Very good synergy. But then the other thing that I had a little bit of issue with, and it took me a bit to figure out what was going on with it, was I felt much more squishy this time around than I did previously. Like I know other people said they felt squishy on the Harbinger because of the reducing health pool, and reducing the amount of health reduction from blight was good. But I didn't really struggle with that just because I'm kind of used to not having that much health and working with it. So as a Harbinger, I felt like I was pretty solid, like I was surviving pretty well. This time around, I definitely felt more squishy, even with the reduction in the blight negative. And I figured out what it was. In the gameplay changes, they listed that Harbingers no longer passively drain life force to convert health while
Yes.
injured and out of Shroud. And I'm not 100% sold on that was a good change. Like it's much easier to get the life force to stay in the Shroud for longer now. So for people who want more time in Shroud, that's a good change. But for me, like I said, it made me feel much, much squishier. And I was doing less of one of the things I liked about it on the first wing was I was doing a lot of in and out of Shroud, like dipping in real quick to use those skills,
Mm-hmm.
like dripping out to
So
use my
you
other
always had
skills.
a pool of life force to give you health back.
Right. I was keeping it very balanced. Which I guess if that's not the game style that they're going for with it, then this change makes sense. But it's one of those things that for me and the way I was approaching it, it was definitely a negative on my experience.
Is it something you'd be okay with as like a trait, giving you that back?
Yeah, if it was a trait, like, to have the option of it doing that or not doing that, I think that would be good because it would give you more variation on how you play and like um uh can't think of the word of like making it more attuned to how you want to play,
It's player
give you
choice.
more options. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would be good. But like I said, if their ideal for how Harbinger should be played isn't the dipping and out, balancing the two, your health and the life force, then I guess this change makes sense. But for me, it made the way I was trying to play much harder.
Okay. Now, the one thing that the biggest complaint I had earlier, and this is just me looking at the patch notes and me looking at the traits right now, is that originally the only thing you had with Blight was the 1 and 3 traits for the first tier. So, Condi damage or power damage based on your Blight stacks. Now, you can take that center one that gives you the vulnerability, elixir recharge, and inflict vuln on nearby enemies. Now, my question is this just a point blank AoE? I think it is. Oh wow, yeah, it doesn't even show on the trait. I'm gonna have to go find an enemy to fight.
Oh, there was one other thing I wanted to mention was I wish Blight created a look on the character depending on how much Blight you had.
It does.
I've not noticed that at all.
It's the glowy green fire. Like it slowly travels up your body
Oh my goodness.
until you get
Like,
the full stacks.
it has not been noticeable for me at all because like I'm literally looking at my bar to see how many stacks I have. Like there's no, like I couldn't tell from my character. Maybe it's because I'm playing on an Asura. It might make it harder to see.
Yeah,
but
because I mean your 100% of the bar is from foot to top
Yeah.
of your head. So with Asura
Right.
being very short. That and it's also very difficult to stack Blight out of combat now. You can only ever
Right.
get to 20. But
Well, I'm fine with 20 being a cap, but it was just for me it was harder to get there
well,
in
it's
general.
unless you dip into Shroud, you can't get the last 5 points because you have to, in order to get Blight out of Shroud, you have to cast elixirs at your feet.
Right.
And if you're
Which
over the
feels
threshold,
like a waste.
right?
Yeah.
But if you're over the threshold, you're always going to be dropping Blight into the empowered elixir.
Yeah.
So, Asura are short kings. They are certainly short. Visuals on Asura is yeah. Oh, the amulet's not great for Asura arrow.
No.
Okay.
Like if you're doing it on like a human or a Norn or even a Char, it shows up really well. It's very, very shiny. You put it on Azura, you can only barely see it when you weapon swap or when you're moving.
Okay.
So I guess make that more pronounced for the Azura. That would be good.
It would be cool if it was less of an effect on the character and more of like something that was like an aura around them.
Right, that they got like more intense.
It would be a better visual indicator for enemies too, because I mean seeing that in PvP and WW, like it would be kind of hard for me to see what, like if a Harbinger's coming at me with almost full Blight, I know they're going to be able to start dumping empowered elixirs, or they'll have the crazy damage buff from either power or Condi going in.
Right.
So I don't know. But all in all, do you think the change, other than the HP change with the consuming life force to give you HP back?
Yeah, I think overall the changes are good. I think it's still a very solid profession, and they've got to like tweak the little parts of it to make everything work better together.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. Arrow, do you have anything to add? I don't know if you had any chances, any time to play with the Harbinger.
Unfortunately, no, I didn't get a chance to play with the Harbinger yet. I managed to get Virtuoso and Catalyst.
Yeah, which is a great time for me to segue to Catalyst, which I wanted to pull up on stream, but for some reason, this is why I'm getting rid of Streamlabs. Also because of their shady bullshit. Dog, chill. That's not even my dog. That's my neighbor's dog.
No.
He's a husky German Shepherd mix.
Oh.
Oh.
So, and he like they thought he was like a year old when they got him. I want to say 2 or 3 months ago, and if he was older than 6 months, I'd be surprised. Oh, 7-bit. This dog, if he gets yelled at, he sits down and he immediately gets, like, he does the mouthy like husky thing. And it's hilarious. He's adorable. But yes, Catalyst.
Everything's perfect. We can go home, right?
We do Breakfast Torment. We do have a catalyst of things to talk about. Okay. Let me start with the thing that I like.
Okay.
Because we're going to start with
thing.
we're going to there's more than one thing, but I like many things. They changed the Jade Sphere mechanics. Now it is not something that degrades as you have it out. It is 10 energy. You still have the pool of 30 energy. And you just drop a field. It lasts for 5 seconds. It takes 10 energy. The element of the field no longer swaps when you swap elements. It's just if you press F5 in an area, you get a fire, water, what field is the air field? Lightning field, and then I believe the earth one is a poison field. Yeah. So you just get the field, and that's it. And honestly, I can see why they didn't necessarily want to make the same changes that they made to gyros, because gyros are also technically wells. And does this count as a well? No, it's not a skill type. They didn't want it to just follow the elementalist, because I get it. In competitive modes, you kind of want the ability to push a catalyst out of their zone of control. It's kind of the same as, like, you have to... This is when Necromancer, when Scourge couldn't just get the bonus effect around themselves for free. If you could push them away from their Sand Sages or their Sand Shades, you were, winning. That was the whole point, is you had to move them away from their locus of power. But I get that. It's great.
Wait, are you going to switch off of spheres?
I was to other things I liked, but if you have something to talk about spheres, I can go from there.
I have a question.
Okay.
So I haven't tried Catalyst in the second beta yet. But when I was reading the notes, it mentioned that it is now actually possible to have multiple spheres of different attunements out at the same time. Mess with that at all?
You can, sort of. There is still a cooldown to the deploy sphere. It has a 4.25 second cooldown. So you really can't have multiple spheres out at the... You can have like a 3/4 of a second if you're perfect on the timing.
Right. That's interesting. Okay.
But you can have permanent... I would say you can have permanent uptime of a sphere. As long as you are hitting things and gaining energy back at a certain rate and it's enough of a target-rich environment, you can maintain sphere uptime.
Okay.
Which has some drawbacks that I will get to down the line for the discussion. The hammer, big change that they made is the 3 skill, that is the little particle effects that swoosh around you. They tightened up the radius on them, so now it orbits at where the hell is this? At a 130 range, which is the same as the melee range on on earth and water, which are the only 2 melee elements for hammer. One of the things that I do like about it is that as you use the 3 skills to build up all of the orbs following around you, it increases the duration. So if you swap to another attunement and hit the 3 skill as your, like, say if you swap from fire to air and your fire is about to time out, if you hit the air 3, it resets the duration to maximum.
Oh, nice.
So you don't have to like rush through all the elements to hit the grand finale finisher with the flip over 3 skill. They, I think, shortened the cooldown on the flip over 3. So I think you have the opportunity to just kind of set a full rotation through all 4 elements, which when I did raid with Arrow and the rest of Wet Bus tickets, when we did a bit of Wing 1 and a bit of Wing 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rotating through all 4 elements on Hammer feels good. Like, not just for the reactionary skills that have defenses, but even for damage. So water and earth have good damage skills at this point. They added some more defenses to Hammer. The spin skill, the 2 on Hammer Earth, now blocks projectiles, which, considering the long channel time of, I want to say it's a 2-second channel. I mean, a 2-second block projectiles channel is a pretty big deal. And then there are now, I believe, every 5 is a blast finisher. Okay, water 5 is a whirl finisher, but every 5 is a finisher. And I believe some of the other skills are also finishers. So that was one of the big problems, is that I think Hammer originally only the Fire 5 was a blast finisher, which was kind of weird on a class where they're like, oh, finishers. You do finishers. If you do finishers, finishers are good. And I'm just like,
right.
Where are our finishers? My issue with Hammer is that fire and air are ranged. Because one of the biggest problems with Elementalists, and you can both back me up on this, is that one of the first things you need to do is, going into a fight, you have to know what weapon to take.
Yes.
Because of the range differences, and also, like, target, like, if you're not in a target-rich environment, you're not really going to want to take a staff. Like, Scepter is really good for single-target focus damage. Staff is, like, your classic blaster wizard type. And then daggers is, you've got your evasive stuff, but it's mostly melee. And then when they added Warhorn, Tempest, you really didn't change your playstyle with an offhand, although Warhorn is best on a Tempest and boring at best on all of the other classes that have access to Warhorn.
It's fine on Ranger.
That's just because you like covering people in birds.
I mean...
Okay.
I played enough Fractals when they had birds. I'm very happy to put birds on other things now.
Did they get rid of that instability?
Yes, thank God.
But the birds.
I hated it so much. So I'm running around doing the Return to on a core Ranger right now, and I have a Warhorn, and my husband's like, why? I'm like, because birds.
Birds! It's just like, I wish there was, like, somebody would need to do a comic of it, and it's just like somebody telling a ranger no, and the ranger's like, you know what? Toot birds.
That'd be awesome.
But with now that I am now playing some Weaver, thanks to Arlie gave me her Weaver build, and I'm enjoying that a little bit more, but I keep a staff as my off weapon, since they gave Elementalist weapon swap.
Out of combat.
If I'm out of combat and I know I'm going into a situation where a melee weapon, pure melee weapon, would be a bad thing, I swap to staff. It's just how Elementalist works. The fact that they are going wishy-washy on Hammer bothers me, because it muddies the waters for the design of the Hammer. Now, the other thing, and this is going to be finicky at best, the fire projectile is an actual projectile. So, like, if you free cam Warhorn plus Mad King runes. Ah, there you go. See, you can get more birds, Arrow.
Love it.
But yeah, exactly. 7-bit engineers got that weapon swap as well. But the Firehammer projectile is an actual projectile. If you are in air and you like free cam and you go to fire the projectile, it travels along the ground. Which, if you have played an elementalist with a dagger going into the Silver Waste, you know that...
Main hand.
Yeah, dagger main hand for elementalists going into the Silver Wastes, or anywhere that the ground can crumble away. Your fire projectiles disappear, along with any other class that has projectiles that are locked to the ground.
Good times.
Yeah, so it's not... That and, like, you can't hit things that are on a ledge above you, so that's going to be a problem for PvP. Because the projectile can't travel to the target.
Right.
If I was using the fire projectile, it arcs like a regular projectile. But that's my issue there. Now, the last two things I have to talk about are the augments and the traits.
I want to jump in again real quick before you switch.
Go right ahead. And also, Arrow, if you want to jump in too for any issues you take with my rant here, please feel free.
Or anything to add. What I was going to say was I agree with you 100% on the ground traveling projectile. Like, if you want it to be a ranged weapon in that attunement, that's a bad call, in my opinion. But I kind of like the idea of having 2 attunements that are ranged and 2 attunements that are melee. Just because, like, you know me, I tend to run into fights and then I'm like, oh wow, a ranged weapon would probably have been better for this fight.
Are you? You're reckless?
A little bit. Yeah, no. So for me, like, having a weapon that I could then go, oh, well, I'll just swap to this other attunement and I can function as a ranged, that is actually really good for elementalist because it gives us a flexibility that we don't have with any other weapon like that. To be able to just go, oh, let's do ranged instead without having, like, once you're already in combat. So I think there is room for that to work. But if they want it to work like that, they need to commit and make it a for real ranged weapon and not like do the ground travel projectile.
Right. I mean, I personally would say that if they want, I think they should just go either or. Like, either make them all ranged or make them all melee.
Right.
Because I suppose I don't have a problem with swapping weapons.
Yes, well, you don't run into combat and just go, "Arr!" Oh.
Well, to err is human and to R is pirate. So, I don't know. Like, my issue with the range is that the hammer is very much designed with the skill 3 to use all 4 elements.
That's true.
Like, they want you to, by design, they want you to swap through everything.
Right.
And now that they've also made the particle radius tighter, there is no more real reason for it to be ranged.
Right.
So...
No, because as it circles around you, it does damage, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so then having a ranged aspect to it more than, like, max melee would be kind of pointless. Because, like, even on some of the other weapon skills that I use, it's like I still run Hill Tempest for some raids. Like, your dagger skills are max melee, give or take. They do have some range to them, but you're still really good on melee. So they should... I would think they would do something similar like that with the hammer skills, since they tightened in the circle of the orbs.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to say the max range you can get on Dagger Mainhead is Water Skill 1, which is a range of 600. But nobody's going into water for damage.
I didn't realize it was that much.
It is.
Yeah, it travels pretty far. It's actually pretty handy.
Everything else is, let's see here, fire, the 3 fire projectiles is 400, Lightning Whip from the Air Dagger is 240, and then the Impale from the Earth is 300.
Yeah. No.
So you've got a lot of like different
Yeah,
ranges on dagger, but
I was gonna say I was Tempest for years and always had main hand dagger, and of course, I didn't go to water very often. So.
yeah. And water's really good for stacking Vuln,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you can manage to hit the target right at 600 range, just so they get the pass through and then immediately get the 2 hits.
Right.
So it can catch people off guard if you're in PvP. Especially if you're running like a heavy power build, because it's suddenly, there's 2 ticks of Vuln, another 2 ticks of Vuln, because it's a very fast auto attack.
Right.
But yeah, and that's, sorry, go ahead, Arrow.
I was gonna say, I like how you think in terms of PvP, which is nice because my brain instantly just goes all raids.
Well, I will say that the issue is, mostly because Thursdays was always 0 to hero, I think a lot about things in terms of PvP design and Guild Wars 2 anyway, just because I think the game does PvP remarkably well. So I often think a lot about readability towards enemy players, because you're supposed to be able to react to your opponent. With this, though, like, I can't really see Hammer being used as a PvP weapon with the way it's currently set up.
Yeah.
And now, so 7-bit, your whole point about the iterative design, like, it's really cool to add choice and style, but, and I'm going to use this to segue into augments, and I'll save the traits for last. Augments are stances. Like, it's just stances again. But they couldn't say, we're giving Catalyst stances because we just got stances with Weaver. Because the augment, which they made the change now, is no longer for using your special skill in the appropriate Jade sphere. You now get a special bonus. Like, the one that I used while I was raiding with Wet Bus tickets was Relentless Fire, which is a 15% damage buff, and if you used it in a fire field, your next 10 attacks were unblockable. Or not in a fire field, in a Fire Jade sphere, your next 10 attacks were unblockable. Now, which in the preview that they gave us before the beta event came out, they said you'll get a cooldown reduction if you use it in the appropriate field. That is not true for all of them, and the cooldown reduction is not consistent across the board. Relentless Fire, if used within your fire sphere, now gains 3 seconds of increased duration to the 15% damage boost. So it becomes 8 seconds with a 20-second cooldown. This one is not so bad in a PvE standpoint, because when you're doing damage, you're very often in fire. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can, like, know that, we're going into damage phase on Gorseval, because that's a huge DPS check that I'm really familiar with, is like, Gorseval's channeling World Ender, we're running back to him to start the DPS phase, I drop my Fire Sphere as we're running in, I hit Relentless Fire, and I blow all of my cooldowns. So now I have 8 seconds of a 15% damage buff, along with the might that I just got from the Fire Sphere, and any other might stacking that's going on. Really easy to use in PvE. Unblockable doesn't matter in PvE, aside from some niche uses. In PvP, however, which tends to be the issue with reactive skills, which is what kind of like what stances are, is you need to hit this buff on yourself right now. I'm going to use Invigorating Air, which is the air augment. It is a 30-second cooldown, gives you 5 seconds of super speed, doubles your endurance regeneration, and it's a stun break. If you use it in an air sphere, it has a 33% reduced recharge. So it's a 20-second cooldown instead of a 30-second cooldown. Stun breaks are not something you can prep for in PvP. You know that there is going to be a point in time where a thief pops out of stealth and stuns you and starts unloading on you, and you need to hit your stun break right now. The problem with augments in any competitive scene is that to actually make use of the full power bonus to it, you have to cast 3 skills. You have to cast the... you have to attune to the right element, You have to cast the Jade Sphere. You have to cast the Augment. That's too slow. You can't do that in WW. You can't do that in PvP. Not when you need to react the way the game wants you to react. So that's my issue with Augments, is that they are not augmenting anything. It's going to be like the Firebrand mantras all over again. Like, I remember actually saying, oh shit, I used my last charge before they made that change to mantras. Before they got rid of that.
I hated that.
Yeah. Yeah, because you never, there was never a reason to use it.
No, and well, it's like on some of them, like your final charge was your most powerful. So what was the point in, like, you don't want to use your last charge because then you got to sit there and wait 30 seconds to recast your mantra, and it's a second and a half cast time. Like, there's so much downtime.
Mm-hmm.
We played Firebrands in Fractals. We stacked Firebrands for like CMs and stuff.
Right.
And it was so bad when the amount of times we heard, "Oh shit, my last mantra." Like it was just so bad. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that.
Oh, you're allowed to swear. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we try not to swear here, but there have been F-bombs.
It happens.
Oh, okay.
It's fine. It happens. We're all adults here.
Okay. I forgot to ask beforehand. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. You're good. It's fine. I think Deo, way back when he managed all the stream stuff, it was just like, yeah, he said it just preemptively that like whenever anybody logs on, it's like, this is a stream for mature audiences. Yeah. You know what, 7-Bit, you have a point. Like, this is, and I'll get to it even more in the traits. There's a lot of cool stuff on Catalyst. It just does not work with Guild Wars 2. So, like, the augments specifically, I just can't. Like, even Fortified Earth, the Earth skill, right? The Earth augment. Block attacks gain barrier if the channel completes successfully. If this is cast within range of Earth Sphere, recharge time is reduced. It's the same recharge as the Air one. It's a 30-second cooldown. It's a 20-second cooldown if you cast it while you're in your Earth Sphere. The only problem is, the stance for Weaver, Stone Resonance, is a 5-second cooldown on a 2-charge skill. It's a 50-second recharge for each charge. It gives you stability and barrier per pulse. So it's 5 seconds of stability and barrier. Versus, it's like 1,000 with Celestial Gear per pulse, 1,100 per pulse. So it gives me more barrier. It's not a channel. Gives me stability. And I have 10 seconds of it versus 3 seconds of Fortified Earth. Like, Fortified Earth isn't even comparable to what Weaver has available for it. And in order to make it better, you have to cast 3 skills. So that's my issue with Augments. Now, finally, what they did to Elemental Celerity... Magni, relax. It's fine. She's
like,
going to get the laundry.
Why are you so upset?
Because Krista opened the front door so she can go get the laundry.
Oh.
If we open the door, he must bork.
I see.
This is a requirement.
Well, that way you always know when the front door is open.
Exactly. Now, Elemental Celerity is the elite. Originally, people were making fun of it as it's just Weave Self again. Because the original setup was... I don't remember it very well, Era. What was it? You gained, like... For every hit you did, you gained, like, a half second off of your cooldowns for a brief time?
I think so.
Okay. So that was a cool concept. Like, if you were in a target-rich environment, which I think Catalyst suits itself well in with all the massive AoE, you could cycle through more abilities very quickly. Now, the only problem is, the only sphere bonus here is that you gain a single boon if you cast it while in a sphere field. 5 stacks of Might for Fire, Vigor for Water, Fury for Air, and Protection for Earth. The actual effect of Elemental Celerity right now is it resets the cooldown of your currently attuned elements weapon skills. And that's it. As an elite skill on a 90-second cooldown. Which, I don't know, that just seems incredibly underwhelming to me, because, now correct me if I'm wrong, and Arlie heard this rant on Tuesday. Elementalist, you're always supposed to be switching your attunements?
Generally, yeah.
So normally you'd want to go from one attunement to another, even if you're just switching, like Fresh Air. I'm just switching between air and fire, primarily staying in air for my damage, and to get off my Tempest, my air channel, or my air overload. I couldn't remember what the word was for it. The idea that I was just, let me reset all of my air cooldowns. I'll get to your 7-bit. I like the energy. It's very hard to fit in. Okay, last we talked was the 50% rework, if not a full rework. Okay. 7-bit is a big engineer player, so that's why he uses Mechanist as a core of a lot of stuff he talks about. Mechanist, the idea behind the mech being a big deal and thus having a long cooldown and you sacrificing a lot to have it was an interesting design idea that didn't hold up to gameplay. It felt off. Yes. The mech itself, the mech was great. It's fixable. You can edit small things in numbers, but the central idea falls apart in gameplay. You have a bigger issue. Yes. Yeah, that's my biggest problem with Catalyst. Is it, like, I don't know what Catalyst wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you want to be a zone control, heavy-hitting bruiser? Are you supposed to be boon support, like, ranged elementalist? Like, I don't know what this is supposed to be. And that finally leads me to the traits. I'm going to say right off the top, I'm going to go straight to the Grandmasters. Staunch auras gain stability when you gain an aura. I think that's already an earth trait.
What is?
Staunch auras is the first Grandmaster trait for Catalyst, and it's just you gain stability when you gain an aura.
Oh. Okay.
No, but you do have access to a lot of stability via Earth. Stability when... grant stability to yourself and nearby allies when attuning to Earth. So, just every 5 seconds, if you've got Arcane slotted. Just here, you can have stability. Granted, with the Grandmaster Minor trait, is you gain auras whenever you cast a finisher, but that has a 10-second cooldown. It's an okay-ish PvP trait, but I feel like it kind of pales in comparison to the rest of the line. Empowered Empowerment, which is a name, doubles the effectiveness of Elemental Empowerment, which is the plus 1% to all stats. Unique buff that Catalysts have available to them. So you can get a plus 20% to all stats, which, after I invested 240 gold into all Celestial gear, thank you, Boots, I thought that was really cool to see. And then finally, because the last time we had this conversation, Miko told me she schooled me on this. Sphere Specialist, your Jade Sphere boons have increased duration. A 50% increased duration. Miko told me that this was to the base duration of the boons, which is then further multiplied by concentration.
Yes.
So, Grandmaster traits, aside from Staunch Auras, I feel like that is very lackluster. You could get something extra on top of that, other than just the stability. I feel the Grandmasters for the traits are fine. The other two tiers, however, numbers 1 in both of them, Hardened Auras and Empowering Auras. Hardened Auras is a unique buff for the Catalyst that reduces incoming damage by 2% per stack. Stacks up to 5, lasts for 10 seconds. Much like the stuff they added for Willbender, when you refresh it, it refreshes the whole stack. So if you get a tick of it at 5 stack, it just resets it to 10 seconds duration. Empowering auras is much the same with the stack mechanics. 5 stacks, 10 seconds duration, refreshes the whole stack. 2% damage and 2% Condi damage per stack. So, all told, if you go 1-1-2, you are maintaining, through your Catalyst gameplay, you are attempting to maintain 3 unique elite specialization buffs. Which I think is bad design. I don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know any other build in the game that is designed around maintaining more than one, like, class-specific buff. Like a stacking buff like that. Can you guys think of anything?
I can think of ones that are you maintain one, but not more than one.
Yeah, because like the first thing that came off the top of my head, which I don't know if anybody actually uses it, is the Signet, the stacking Signet buff on Warrior, which is like a crazy amount of precision if you manage to maintain those stacks. But like 5 Signet Warrior memes, quickness healing Scrapper, maybe. Well, that's just boons. Like, I'm talking, like, unique buffs, 7-bit. So I don't even know if Engineer has any of these.
So you're talking, like, Spotter, Empower Allies...
Yeah, like,
stuff
not
like that.
boons.
Yeah,
like,
no. I can't think of anything.
Yeah. Because, I mean, with boon uptime, you have help from other players. For a Catalyst, I'm trying to make sure that I proc this as much as possible. So I'm like, oh, I need auras. Oh, I need auras. Oh, I need auras. But then the problem that becomes out of that in competitive modes is I need auras is entirely non-interactive. Like, there is nothing another player can do to stop you from getting hardened, like, these stacks of buffs, other than stunning you, which if you just decide to go all 3 top line rows, you're gaining stability every time you gain an aura. So it's a lot of non-interactive power. I can't stop a Catalyst from gaining this. Even I think a lot of the if you use the dagger offhand, I think the aura skills on like the 4 you can just cast. I don't think you're locked out of casting those when you're stunned. Like, they don't stun break, but you can activate your aura. So it's just... It's not great design. The other traits are fine. Elemental Empowerment for the mid-tier trait is where it first shows up. You just have 3 stacks of it while in combat. Just by design. It's just every 15 seconds, it gives you 3 stacks of elemental empowerment at 15 seconds. So it's just here, when you're in combat, have plus 3% to all of your stats. Which doesn't sound great. But I'm going to... that's not multiplicative with might, is it? God, that's a whole new can of worms that I don't want to get into. But in general, like... my full summation is, despite the changes, like the Jade Sphere, good, the hammer, better, could be fixed more. I don't know what Catalyst is supposed to be. And that's my problem with it.
I guess they don't really either at this moment.
Yeah.
They're just trying a mix of things to see what sticks, what the community likes the most, and then they're going to go with it, I guess.
Which, I guess that was my complaint with, like, the Untamed as well, is that, like, the inspiring idea seemed very weak in the first place. Because I know I saw the Bunny Thumper ! 1-1 from the response tweets when they first revealed that, and I'm just like... I wasn't terribly like moved by it, at least in concept. In gameplay, it's a lot more solid than what I feel Catalyst is at. I don't know what to do with, like, augments are stances, and I don't know if, much like the Firebrand final mantra, I don't know if anyone's ever going to try and manage this. And I'm getting Discord messages. Arrow, you can say it.
I didn't want to sound mean.
No, you can.
No.
Like okay. The number of times I have said specifically that I don't think ANET, the ANET devs know what they're doing are many on this show. I do not say that with malice.
I think you say that they don't know what they're doing with a specific thing,
Right.
not like in general.
Yeah, I'm not going to say that they don't know what they're doing as a carte blanche statement. It's just like, this thing feels like it has no direction, but I'm also not privy to all of their internal communication.
Right. It just seems like they were so focused on returning to Cantha. That was everybody's thing. Go back to Cantha, go back to Cantha. And they spent all their time on resources for the Turtle Mount, which was a request, the Cantha maps and seeing how they've changed in the past 250 years, the Guild Hall, and they spent a lot of time on the new legendary weapons, which I'm disappointed about. Not going to get into that rant.
Well, we are going to get into that because we're going to talk about that after the turtle.
Oh, okay. But like when it comes to elite specs, they needed an elite spec for every class. Whether they had one prepared and ironed out already didn't matter. The beta was coming, they had to do something, so they just threw out half ideas, it seems like, for a couple of them.
Well, I think the other issue is we're getting to a point where with the elite specs that we have, a lot of classes that had very significant holes, like some of them still have, trying to address them, but a lot of the classes are very over, like, whole, like they do what they do well, and they didn't really have a niche they needed to build yet, but they need a new elite spec.
Yeah.
And I think that's why some of these elite specs feel less inspired than, or directional than, some of the others, because they're not trying to fix a problem, they're trying to, let's do something cool, you know?
Yeah. And that's one of my, like, that's why I always wanted, like, longbow on Elementalist, because there's no long, like, we got melee with Weaver, we have short range, we have long range AoE, we don't have long range single target.
Yeah.
Catalyst mid close melee support, you can do that with Dagger Focus with Aura Share on core Ellie, Zek, or do it with Tempest and have more auras to share. One element,
Like Heal Tempest can be used in a variety of ways. We use them, and we can stack Might, Fury, Swiftness, Vigor, Protection on one Ellie, and that's 10-man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say Tempest is extremely just useful in general.
One of the things I was actually hoping to see with, like, the class icon with this was they gave, Shroud to Thief, but, like, giving Shroud to Elementalist would have been cool too. Like, you can say you build up energy while you're in an element, and then you hit the element again. Yeah, we're kind of pulling from Tempest mechanics here, but you go into Fire Shroud, and you have, like, a Shroud bar, much like all of the other classes that have Shroud now. You can go like that. But yeah, like Zek was talking about, one element Elementalist. Or I know leading up to this, with all the raw magic we've been talking about, why not have something that works with wild magic? So, I don't know. Like, Catalyst still doesn't feel like it knows what it wants to be.
Yeah.
That's my ultimate takeaway.
Like what it's trying to do.
I did have a really cool idea about the idea of the augment, not necessarily augmenting you when you use the skill, but augmenting the sphere field that you dropped. So, like, Berserker, they added that thing where if you use a Berserk skill, it increases the duration of your Berserker rage, right? Say you drop your Jade sphere field, and you use an augment in it, it resets the duration of the field and also adds another effect to it. So that was my thought there, and it would also help you with like, so say you're doing a big burst of might. I was talking about the whole Gorseval thing earlier. You want to add more to the might stacking so your might stacker can more focus on his damage output than the might stacking. I don't know if that's a thing or if you just have people who output might passively in raids anymore.
Generally druid. You do bring at least one druid for that. The healers are the ones that generally are your might stackers.
Okay. Is it something that they have to like do an active rotation for, or is it passive?
Once they stack it, it pretty much stays.
Okay.
Druids build it up through avatar and some other minor skills. And just about every class gives out some passive group-wide type of might, so there's no real need for warriors to be might stackers anymore.
Okay. Well, like, my thought here is like, okay, I'm playing my catalyst. I know if I'm in fire, rolling up for the big DPS burst, I drop my Jade Sphere, which is going to give 5 might at almost 20 seconds in full celestial gear. So I would assume this is all exotic stuff on the beta characters. I have ascended on my other one, so that would be over 20 seconds of might for each tick. I hit the fire augment, Relentless Fire, and then it resets the duration of the field, so even more might, and it does damage, and then it would have something else as an effect that goes into it. So that was my thought there. And then it also, when I brought up like pushing the catalyst out of their locus of power, if you augment a field, if you augment a Jade Sphere field, it's just like when I talked about with Scourge, when they didn't get the free Sandshade procs around themselves. If you push them away from their Sandshade, they were weaker. Well, if you push a catalyst off of their sphere fields, especially if they've already augmented the sphere field and they get pushed out of it, that's the incentive there. What up, Emperor? As per usual, it will be up tomorrow. We just got to the end of the class stuff. I'm finishing my rant about Catalyst, which I feel like I kept mostly contained this time around.
Did you say the augment gives stability too, right? Or some part gives stability?
The augment does not. That was when I was talking about comparing the Earth augment versus the Earth stance from Weaver.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because the Weaver stance is literally just, it's the same skill but better, effectively.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, sorry, Gift. It's okay. It'll go up tomorrow. No, it'll go up Monday because it'll actually give me time to put the video together tomorrow instead of trying to do it all tonight. I'm moving the video day to Monday. Just so, for my own sanity.
If we want to recap our thoughts on the professions, Virtuosos is amazing and wonderful, but probably going to be nerfed.
Definitely going to be nerfed, but it's so fun right now.
Okay.
Yay. Harbinger's cool. They made a couple of choices that I'm not sure about, but it just might be issues of playstyle for me more than anything else. It works well. It's a good concept. And Catalyst is better, but not there yet. Still needs a lot of work.
Catalyst still doesn't know what it wants to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that leaves us with, I'm going to log out so my bandwidth is no longer crushed. Turtle. Okay, we've got Arlie's opinion on Turtle. Arrow, how do you feel about Turtle?
I haven't played around with them a whole lot. I did ride in the back of a couple of turtles with some friends, and I did try to use it in Dragon Stand. Backing up is so slow.
Yeah, oh gosh.
Yes, absolutely.
I never even tried to back up in it.
It's so slow. Oh my god.
I think I saw some videos of people doing turtle races in Divinity's Reach at RP walk speeds.
Oh god. Yeah, I was gonna say is the backup at the speed of the RP walk, because that is super slow. It's like,
kind of.
A Blastoise, yes. Accurate. There's going to be a lot of blue turtles running around.
Yeah.
Once it comes out.
I was kind of surprised messing around with the turtle that like I enjoy driving it around more than I enjoy sitting and doing the cannons. I expected it to be the other way.
It feels a lot like a skimmer, and I'm going to show my age here. Has anybody here played Diddy Kong Racing on the N64?
a while ago.
Okay. It
Some
felt like
time ago.
there's a hover car in that, or like a hover boat in that game, and that yes, thank you, gift. But it very much feels like a hover boat. Like, if you get up to full speed on a turtle and then turn, you are sliding for a lot longer than if you were on a skimmer.
Yeah. But I really like the way that feels. Like, so it's weird to me because on skimmers, the drift on skimmers annoys the crap out of me. Like, I just get frustrated using it. But in the turtle, I guess because of the way it, like, drags on the ground and works, for me, it feels like, I don't know, it makes more sense in some way. I like that.
Okay. And the gun is the siege fire is absolutely getting nerfed.
No, it's perfect as it is. Leave it alone, ArenaNet. Don't listen to the haters. Perfectly
so
balanced.
overpowered.
Arlie,
Perfectly balanced.
You can cast 5 shots in half a second for 20 stacks of burning.
But
on
everybody
top of the
with
damage.
the turtle can do it. It's fine.
You could... Okay, so, Arrow, we were in Silver Waste. That tends to be our primary testing area. The legendary Husk spawned. I, by myself, riding on the back of Arlie's turtle, was able to drop the brake bar to, like,
awesome.
20% with one
Yeah.
volley.
Oh.
Yeah. Only, like, that's the thing, like, I feel like if you could do it completely on yourself, that would be crazy. But the fact that you need somebody else to come by and hit it to finish it, that's fine.
But we had... that it takes an entire Zerg of people actually concentrating on CC skills to drop that brake bar. Not one turtle.
I love that, Dale. You're right.
If everybody is broken... Well, okay, Syndrome.
Yes.
Take it easy.
This is what I'm saying.
Oh, speaking, Zek brings up the alt account taxi. That is accurate because if the owner of the siege turtle waypoints, you go with them if you're the passenger.
Oh, who was it? Somebody in Wet Bus Tickets said that they foresee map completion cells.
Oh, interesting.
Because there are a lot of hearts that you get passive credit for just by
Being there.
tagging an enemy or something, and you can...
Yeah.
Somebody can just taxi you around.
That's cool.
And Hat is correct. You have to move to gain charges for the person in the back.
Right.
My personal opinion on it, other than the cannon fire needing to be nerfed, is I'm okay with it, which Arlie calls me a blasphemer for. But it's the simple fact that we're missing 5 masteries for the turtle. Right. So I don't know what this is all supposed to be.
Oh, on the topic of masteries, they really should try to add something more for Central Tyria. I've got
many
30-something, 40-something mastery points, and I don't even have them all. But there's nothing to spend them on.
Yep, they're just sitting there.
Yep, they're just there. But
what was I gonna say? I really this is completely side thing, like not to using the turtle at all, but I really like how dyes work on them. Like when you dye the shell, it doesn't just change the entire shell uniformly to that color.
Yeah,
there's texturing in there and stuff, and I really like
gradient
that
and stuff. Yeah, like I think as much as I complain about the default mount skins just being one dye channel, I think the turtle is done very well.
Yeah. I like the jet nerfs. the jet propulsion thing. That was fun.
I wasn't expecting hover jets on my turtle, but...
Right. Well, you know, turtles can't really jump well, so you need a little lift to get over things.
Turtle walking on the bottom of water. Wait, you can just walk into water with the turtle?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You walk on the ground.
I did not know this!
And underwater hat tested it with me. It does switch to you target the enemy and you shoot them instead of it being ground target.
Oh my god.
Yep.
Underwater champion fighting is just going to be a shit ton of siege turtles lined up on the ocean floor. Fire!
Yeah.
It'll work better than it did for Traherne.
Yeah. It is a slow walk underwater. And you can use the jets underwater too, but that gets even harder to control where you're going. Like there's a skill there that I don't have yet.
I part of me wonders if that's going to be one of the masteries that allows you free swimming underwater with the turtle. But
yeah.
We do have 2 other things to talk about, and we've got half an hour left before y'all have to leave.
Oh gosh.
Oh gosh. Quick, I got a turtle thing to show you.
Okay.
Oh, turtle thing.
Turtle thing. I wish I could. It's just very difficult for me to. Guild Wars 2 interesting. Okay, I'm gonna open this up in Reddit so I can mute the tab. If you wanna drop it in the
chat.
In the chat too.
What?
Oh god. Yeah. Yep. That's what we call inverse kinematics. Is the process in gaming where you make sure people's feet are always on the ground. So like in Guild Wars 2 when you're on like a ledge, your one leg is going to be bent so you're standing properly. Yeah, that's what that is. Which is why if you play Dark Souls 1, never look at your character's ankles.
Oh.
Because I've injured my ankles earlier in life, and if I look at my character's ankles in Dark Souls too much, it makes me sick.
Oh, it reminds you of the injuries?
Well, because there are no bones in that character's legs. Or if there are, if those ankles are bones, they are dust.
Oh, okay.
It's bad. But that is hilarious, and thank you, Arrow.
Yes, thank you for sharing that.
That was necessary. I'm going to make sure that that's in for the people on YouTube in the comments. So, the Guild Hall, Isle of Reflection. Any of y'all? I'm just gonna grab the link and drop it into. I literally have not had the opportunity to look at this video.
Yep.
Mute tab. I'll just do it now. It's only a minute long. I mean, it looks pretty. It's Canthan architecture. The Guild Hall is. You think it's fantastic, Emperor? I mean, it does look pretty cool. I hope the claiming mission is a little more interesting.
Not just run around to points.
Yeah.
Kill things.
I am still incredibly disappointed that there is no Mist's Guild Hall. Like that's the one thing I think the game is very much missing is a Mist's Guild Hall.
Huh. I wonder. So at the end of that little video, they have somebody on a skimmer fishing. I wonder if there are going to be like special fish that you can get out of your guild hall and only really out of your guild hall.
That would be cool.
That would actually be interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks good to me. I mean, I will probably end up switching the guild hall again just because to see the new location.
Why not? Yeah. It's very pretty.
Well, 7-bit, I fully expect them to release like a turtle that has a mask that you would then be able to dye as its own dye channel.
Yeah.
So there's that. But other than like, hey, it's a new guild hall. Any comments on that? I know it's a lore location, but I don't know enough about Guild Wars 1 to really comment on the lore.
I don't either.
Okay. So we did get. I'm gonna move on to the next bit. It's pretty, and you like all the water in it. Xingje Monastery. I think that was it, Deo. It was old Xingje Monastery. I think that's what they told us when they first told us there was going to be a guild hall. But finally, the post that I got mad at because I saw it while I was sitting on the couch Friday night relaxing. And I thought, okay, cool. We'll talk about the light armor classes and the turtle, and we'll be good. And then this blog post comes out. A closer look at Guild Wars 2, End of Dragons Legendary Weapons.
Yay!
So we already knew that legendaries going into End of Dragons, we were going to get a whole set of legendary weapons that are all one skin set
16
theme.
is a whole set, not 19.
Yes, because they forgot that underwater weapons exist.
No, because apparently Arene doesn't like underwater weapons. They said so in the post.
Because they forgot underwater weapons exist. We have the Arene ones. And then this blog post is also like, oh yeah, by the way, all of the dragons that we've dealt with are also getting legendary sets.
Well, no. Not really.
All 5 of them?
All the ones... So all the ones
with.
that we've dealt with will
Yeah.
have new appearances for those legendaries, but it's not like you have to make new legendaries for all of them.
You just get you can channel a different dragon through your legendary weapon.
Basically. So like you make the weapon that you want, and then there's going to be journeys that they call it to unlock the other weapon appearances that they'll release throughout End of Dragon, which I was talking with Deo briefly on our Discord about, and I'm really hoping it's something more analogous to the old legendary journeys that they did, where you wander around and find things and learn about different things, and it's more story driven
instead of building tributes.
Yeah, I feel like if they could do that, that would balance the, just pure material needs of making a legendary that we currently have that's just, I want to say supply sink, but material sink.
Yeah.
With also still being able to do the more story driven, interesting aspects of it as well. Like that might be a good compromise if they can do that. I don't know if that's what they're thinking though. They did say journey though.
So a little bit of foreshadowing on this. Arrow said she had a rant about this.
Yeah.
So, goodness.
You have the floor.
I'm very upset that they made them all the same. Like, I get that they're probably taxed for like resources and time and whatnot in design, and that's fine. But like, they're already planning on releasing things later on, like it said in the post. They'll release the different designs later on. Why couldn't they have made different designs and released them in sets like they did with the Gen 2s that they did that with?
Yeah, my guess on that is because people bitched heartily about it and not getting all the legendaries at one time.
Yeah.
Right,
Like,
but I mean, like, now it's like a glorified Black Lion skin set.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now,
I am not okay with this.
Now, I could have been okay with the Arene set being the Arene set. I think the thing I take umbrage with here is that looking at the 5 Elder Dragons that we've killed, their versions of the Greatsword that are here on this blog post page, it's the same weapon with slightly different skin model and particle effects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have
different flavor essentially.
If they were going to do this and say release it later, I could totally see if they went with like whatever the precursor is for the Greatsword as the base, and then the finished legendary was a different shape of the model. Like you still have a base through line that splits into all 6 of the sets. Like I don't mind the Arene Greatsword. I don't think I have a character that I would use it on because I don't like the look of it. But having the like, say Elementalist gets Greatsword at some point in the future. Using the Kralkatorrik Greatsword would be great because I like the lightning and crystal motif.
Yeah.
What do I think of them being tradable? Bad and dumb and wrong.
Wait, well, the legendaries aren't precursors.
Oh, the precursors are bad and dumb and wrong.
Really?
Personally, yes.
Oh.
They already, like, you can still make as many of the tier 1, the Gen 1 great legendaries as you want. If somebody wants a legendary and they just want a legendary, you can get a tier 1 Gen 1 legendary.
Okay. So why is it a problem for the precursor for these ones to be tradable?
Because once, like, they set the precedent with the next set,
Mm-hmm.
you can get more than one?
Yeah.
What's the point?
What's the point of what?
Of getting more than one at this point, like, what's the point of getting more than one legendary greatsword?
No, not of the... Like, you can make as many precursors as you want.
Okay.
But, like, so that you could just sell precursors if you want. But, like, you can make all of the legendaries set. Like,
I'm sorry. I will fully admit I didn't like read through this whole article when it came out because I was just, here's something else to talk about.
mm-hmm. And all you have to do to unlock being able to make the precursor is to finish the story journal for each chapter, I think it said. Or something along those lines.
Okay. Hang on. There's a whole... that's great. Where do I get them? 6 versions, 16 weapons. And there's the bit about Aurene quibbling about underwater weapons. Like, guys, just make the underwater weapons. For the love of God. Underwater exists and you fix... Like, when they keep balancing underwater skills and fixing them and making them better, I'm not buying the whole, like, oh yeah, underwater doesn't exist. I'm just...
But they also made, like, where you can go underwater with your skimmer, and now you can also use the turtle underwater.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So they're, like, making underwater content more appealing, but they keep, like, dodging underwater weapon skins. So...
Yep.
This is why I've been a huge advocate of making Spear a land weapon, because there are so many cool Spear skins in the game already, and that's just from the core game. There are cool Spear skins. But,
yeah.
What are they going to cost you? Fair market value. Precursors can be put up for sale. No, the precursors and weapons themselves can be put up for sale on the trading post. So the way it's
so it's both.
The way it's reading is that you can... It's Gen 1 legendaries.
Okay.
Similar to the first generation of legendaries, the precursors and weapons can be put up on sale on the trading post.
Oh, I thought I read it as the precursor weapons could be put up on the trading post.
Precursors and weapons themselves.
Okay. Interesting.
Finishing the story journal in End of Dragons will unlock the ability to learn to craft. Okay, so it's just like getting the Griffin in Path of Fire. Is once you finish the Path of Fire story, you start getting the whole thing with getting the Griffin. You get a precursor for completing the Living World Return achievements. It's just the same with other precursors. It's just there's no other than learning how to craft the precursors. There's no journey to the baseline one. It's you get the precursor and then you throw the precursor in the Mystic Forge with a bunch of other stuff.
Right. And that's why I was saying I hope the journey comes in with unlocking the other appearance, because that would balance it out a bit where you can get to experience both sides, without making each legendary a journey in itself, which was a problem for them.
Yeah. Disappointingly, because the Gen 1 precursor, the Gen 1 legendary crafting and the first 4 Gen 2 legendaries, really good story. I liked it. It was fun. It was interesting. The rest of the Gen 2 legendaries were crap. It was very disappointing.
But yeah, I think I'm on the other side of both of you guys. I'm not at all bothered that they all have the shared theme. I don't care. Like, I'm on the side of, like, yeah, I like the cool looks of the individual legendaries. Like, how long have I had the Dreamer? And I love the Dreamer. I use it all the time.
Mute Arlie.
Things like that. But at the same time, like, for me, legendaries are less about the look and more about getting a weapon that's a legendary to get all of the quality of life that comes along with the legendary.
Yeah,
at this point.
If it wasn't like a crazy horrific grind in WW, you'd probably be rocking like the Ascended switch to legendary gear.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, I'm still debating about what the best path to legendary gear is for me, and it might actually be World versus World. I'm not sure, but
that's probably the same for me.
it's a long, Yeah,
rating
it's a long
it's
process.
yeah. Gift is on the
But
WW train, so there's that.
yeah.
I
And
don't.
like so it doesn't bother me that they can sell precursors in the legendaries again. Like who cares if you want to buy it off the trading post? So like it doesn't affect me directly if
Because
somebody
you
else does
probably
that.
won't do it.
Yeah. Like I'm glad that other people can do that if that's what they want to do, but
Then it'll
it
give
doesn't
Celisi more
matter to
money.
me. Yeah, you know?
Arrow for reference, because I don't know if you've heard us talk about Celisi. Celisi is a friend of Arlie's,
Yeah.
and he had enough accounts to be able to make a
I have
legendary
like
just off of
16 accounts.
yeah. He was able to make a legendary every 30 days just with login bonuses.
Oh wow. I mean, I
Yeah.
went on a trip where I did for Trivco, Relics Raid group that I was in. I for a third year anniversary, I think, of us being together, I was making everybody legendaries.
Oh
Oh,
jeez.
And
nice.
so I was pumping out a legendary every month. I got
Wow.
everybody but 2 people, I think.
That's crazy. I
Yeah.
can't even imagine doing that.
It was rough. It was very interesting to see my account value go like really high and then just plummet, and then go
Yeah.
really high and then plummet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to go look at my account value, because that's one of the things I kind of liked from Guild Wars 2 Efficiency.
Yeah.
It's just
I haven't
to
looked
see
at
all
that in a
the
while.
stuff that I have on there. But was he okay? Yeah, no, Celisi's fine. He's just a machine. It's just a
Well,
thing he does. I don't know if he does
he's
it anymore.
no, I'm pretty sure he does. I
Okay.
see the logins and stuff every now
Okay.
and again. So I think he's still going with that.
I know somebody that does it. Has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 accounts, I want to say. Does login bonuses and dailies.
Yep.
Stopped on the story. Like he was doing story on every account,
Oh,
like
God.
just full on
Jesus.
through. He stopped that. He only does it on 2 now.
Oh,
Oh, only 2. Okay.
Only 2.
wow.
7
This
accounts
includes
per
like
second.
fractal achievements and raid achievements and
Oh.
all kinds of stuff like
Oh,
that.
no.
Wow.
Yeah, I think he's
Oh.
got raid legendary armor on 2 accounts.
Jesus.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, that's...
I can't even imagine.
Well, thanks for the follow, Turn. Tlern? Tlern. That's an L.
Tlern?
Okay. Tlern.
Yeah.
Tlern. Yeah, I know, Zek. You were always buying in on when there were sales. I think Celisi also had the extra like shortcuts on his desktop with the command line arguments.
Yes.
So that he could
did.
just like if he clicked on one icon, it was one account.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me, but I don't know. Like
I have 2, but I usually only do the login and the dailies on my second account. That's
couldn't-
about as far as I go.
I barely have enough time for my one account.
Same.
I mean, I have no life.
Well, it's between work and the gym for me. Most of my game time is Tuesdays and Saturdays. And then like my wife works from home, so it's really hard for her to play video games that are computer anymore because she's just stuck here and she just doesn't want to be in the office anymore. So
That makes sense.
I was gonna say I have no life, but I play 3 MMOs. So
Tlern, we have it's just YouTube at the moment. I don't think we have it on Spotify that I'm aware
oh
of.
yeah, no, we don't.
Or Apple. But yeah, we've got a YouTube channel. Do we have it linked? I'm pretty sure we have it linked.
Where
If we don't have it linked in the description of the channel,
we're failing.
It's a fluffing problem. But
Yeah, it's
for,
on there.
For my opinion, with the legendaries, like I'm not a huge fan of just a very basic like the thing I'm getting from the Greatsword is that it's just a fairly standard reskin of the base Arene one. Now, that's just the feeling I'm getting here, and it kind of looks like it holds true. I'd need to see the rest of the set, but like that would be my wish, is to see at least some morphism between the skins. So like you have the baseline design of the precursor, and then like the Mordremoth shape is different from the Zaitan shape is different from the Kralkatorix shape.
Right. I mean, that would make sense too. Like if that was more like that.
That's my only issue. But I also know that they have to design the particle effects and the footfalls, and like there's a lot of art that goes into legendaries than just the weapon model. So I can understand why they kind of didn't want to go too crazy with going through everything.
Yep.
I don't know. Like, I don't necessarily... I'll fully admit, I don't often look at my character while they are in motion, Zek. Like, animations are cool and all, but I'm looking at numbers in combat. Like, I'm looking at numbers, I'm looking at cooldowns, I'm looking at enemy positions. Like, the kill animation, oh yeah, that's great. The exaggerated draw animation, yeah, sure, that's great.
I will be interested to see what these look like in combat, like actual fighting, and what, like, because they put a screenshot of the kill animation
The
in
big
their
rainbow thing
right.
that they
But
basically
it's
just took from
really
Grothmar Valley
right, but it's really hard to get a feel for that, like
as a still.
how the animation looks,
Yeah.
you know.
And then you have to figure, like, what's this going to look like when you have, like, 6 or 7 people all in one combat? Oh, they showed a demo in the stream. I need to go back and watch that.
Oh, yeah, I haven't watched the stream yet.
I don't know, Emperor. Aurene, as we've been playing through, like, everything Aurene has been doing, like, I wouldn't necessarily say dynamic character, but that's because she kind of launched from cute puppy dragon into the linchpin of saving the world very quickly.
Yes.
So it was
I
very
kind of miss
difficult.
cute puppy dragon.
I missed the stage when Aurene could, like, talk and also wasn't an elder dragon, because that wasn't a very long... Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't a very long period of time when she felt like she was like standing as an equal with us.
Right.
So, which I think ended when she came back from the dead. Spoilers. But other than that, so it's cool. It's fine. I see flaws with the system. I'm not a huge fan of the, everybody can buy and sell them, but that's because I really liked the concept of legendaries telling a story in the world.
Yeah,
Like,
but we're not getting that back.
I know. Like, it was
Unfortunately.
an opportunity for sides, like, I don't understand why Khalidbolg wasn't a legendary. Like, it boggles my mind that reforging Khalidbolg was not a legendary.
Yeah.
I'm still bothered by that. But that's my take on the weapons. Arlie, you give yours as you're cool with it in a general sense. And Arrow, you...
Oh, I think I know why Caliburn isn't a legendary weapon. Because so they would have had to do it similar to this, where it's one motif and it's all weapons, because they wanted Caliburn to be something that people can use on whatever the character they wanted to use it. So right now you reforge and redo Caliburn, and then you choose what type of weapon. If they made it as a legendary, say like they just went from a legendary greatsword, that would limit the amount of players who would be able to use it at any time, any way on their character. So they wanted to make sure it was available to whoever would want it because it fit their character story or whatever.
I don't know. I suppose I'm not too keen on making sure everybody can use, like, taking a weapon and being like, oh, everybody can use, like, this weapon. It's just like...
It's just one of those, it was such an iconic thing. Like, it feel like, at least to me, it would have felt like, especially for people who play Savari and whatnot, like, the idea of Caliburn isn't, like, tied to it being a great sword. It has importance in the story beyond the fact that it's a great sword, you know.
But I think that's exhausted on the legendary stuff, which ArenaNet, please stop releasing things Friday afternoon. Please. You're killing me. Release it Friday morning, which would be like 10 to noon for me. Give me time. But
You don't like being in my boat. Every Tuesday is patch day, and that's the day I raid.
no.
It's always a gamble when Buzz Tickets comes in. They're like, oh, was there a patch?
That's why I remember in World of Warcraft when Tuesdays was patch days and that I wouldn't raid on. We were like, oh yeah, we're gonna raid Tuesdays. No, we're not.
Yeah,
We're like,
I
what do you
never.
mean? What do you mean,
Never.
Mal? We need you. You're our. And this was before I was a guilder. You're like, we're not raiding on Tuesdays for a patch.
Yep.
We're not a leading edge guild. We're not a bleeding edge guild.
No reason to do that to yourself.
No, don't need to deal with the frustration.
No, and it never fails. Like we start at 7:30 Eastern, and
God.
we're all grouped up. 7:15, 7:20. We're about to go in the instance. New build is available. Crap.
Yep.
Oh God, that's got to be even worse for you now with daylight savings time moving everything to 8 o'clock to reset.
Oh yes.
Oh.
Thankfully, thankfully all of my raiders are between the U.S. and Canada, so I don't have anybody that's like
Wildly
EU.
Yeah.
Whereas like before, some of my raid groups had included people from like Australia, Germany, and whatnot. So it gets very awkward sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the things that I have to deal with because I'm hoping that Spirit will rejoin the podcast for the heavy weapon stuff to talk about the Vindicator changes, and having to coordinate with her because she's in New Zealand.
She's in the future?
Yeah.
Yes. She's in the future.
She's in the future upside down land. But God, Zach, I wish daylight savings time had no power here. I miss that. I want to stop.
Aren't they getting rid of it? Well, there's some states that are currently in the process of vetoing it out, trying to eliminate it.
Yeah.
It should just be a thing everywhere, or not a thing.
Yeah,
everywhere.
I don't like it.
But that's some post-show talk, which we won't have much time for because y'all have to leave in 10 minutes. But that sounds like, barring any further conversations about legendaries that y'all want to have before we move to outro time.
No.
No? Arrow, you good?
No, I'm good.
Cool. So that takes us to outro. And Arlie, where can they find you?
You can find me at Arlie82 on Twitter and Instagram. Yay.
Huzzah, huzzah. And Arrow, where can they find you?
Generally, the best way to reach me is through Discord. If you're in either VI, Relics of Ore, Heroes of Old, or any various other Discords, you can find me and ping me. My Twitter is Erlen Reve, or I am usually streaming through Virtually Interrupted.
Hooray, VI. Great people over there. And finally...
Oh, coming new year, we actually are going to have an actual streaming schedule.
Ooh.
Schedules?
Yes.
Who does that?
Hopefully us.
I say that as I've been part of a podcast that's been going for 7 years.
Whew.
That's right, yeah. We hit our 7-year anniversary in November and completely forgot to do anything about it. But finally...
Oh,
well, this is also episode 300, part 1. So,
right.
Oh, that's true.
This is you can find my dumb face at Malthanis MMO on Twitter. I stream Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. Tuesdays and Thursdays are random shenanigans, usually Guild Wars 2 stuff. Saturdays, Talking Skritt podcast, 4 p.m. Eastern. Tuesdays and Thursdays are 8 p.m.-ish Eastern time. We're going to be doing part 2 of this on Tuesday, where we're going to be doing the heavy armor classes.
Heavy? I thought medium.
Yeah, but I wanted 7-bit on, and he DMs because because of the whole food poisoning thing the last time. He couldn't talk about Mechanist, so I want to give him the opportunity to gush about Mechanist live.
Oh yes, please, because I was in love with Mechanist.
Oh my god, I loved it so much. Anyway,
it's so fun.
That's next week ish. But thank you all very much for watching. We will catch you next time. Have a great evening. Bye now.
Bye. I wave like my camera's on because you guys are waving, and I go to...